minutes earlier. So, again, thank you so much for these lectures, which actually have helped me, and I hope that lots of listeners will listen from Facebook and from YouTube. And thank you so much.
Yes. Can I start now?
Yes, of course, we can start now.
Okay, perfect. Hello, everyone. My name is Isabel, and I have already given 2 lectures in the past. I'm 22 years old, and I'm from Germany, and today I want to talk about the brand in you. So I will talk about how important it can be to know more about your strength and your weaknesses and how to define you as a brand. What will we do today? Oh, sorry. First of all, we will talk about the relevance of the topic. So why is it important to know more about yourself and to maybe define yourself as a brand? Then we will find out how you can find out more about your strengths and weaknesses, because sometimes this might not be as easy as it seems, or maybe you have also experienced that if someone asks you for your strength or for your weaknesses or things that you are really good at or bad at, you have no idea, or maybe you just think that you're good at everything, and maybe some other people might think that they are bad at everything, and both opinions might not be completely correct. So how you can answer this question. And at the end, we will talk about how to apply this knowledge that you have learned in the first 2 parts in real life. So, for example, in a job interview, when some interviewer asks you about your strength and your weaknesses, how can you answer and how can you deal with this kind of situation? So let's start. Maybe you ask yourself now, why can we define individuals as brands? Isn't that a bit like weird? Because normally brands are like Adidas, Gucci, or Apple. So you go to stores and you can buy something as a brand. But why can we also define individuals as brands? Well, let's start at the bottom. Every communication you have with other people consists of content and the relation to the person that you talk to. And have you known before that 80% of all people first recognize the relationship with a person because before they focus on the content? So you can see that the relationship that you establish with the person might even be more important than the content that you share with the other person. Because basically, content is something that everyone is more or less able to learn, and that is like the same for every person. Because if you, for example, have to talk about one specific topic, the content that you share with the other person can be compared to different content that another person would share with another person. But relationships are always unique and really depend on you as a person and, of course, on your partner as a person. So if you are able to manage these relationships with other people in a perfect way, you can not only succeed by the content, but also by the relationship. And then, since the relationship is the first thing people notice, it might be a good idea to focus a bit on this relationship. So basically, we can try to build up ourselves as a brand or as a person that we can define on ourselves, like how do we want to perform, or which impression do we want to leave in conversations? Because we on ourselves are able to decide, and we are responsible for the image that we create. So as Adidas, Gucci, and Apple also have like different impressions or different associations when you think about these brands, we can also try to create our own images. This is why I compared individuals to brands to maybe better understand how much power we have in concerning our own image. So we can build and we can form our talents, strength, and visions on ourselves. How can you be seen as a brand? Well, there are many different adjectives that can be connected to a person that wants to be a brand. For example, you can try to be unique. Of course, you should not be perfect because no one is perfect, but you as a human being can try to show your uniqueness. You can try to show that you are a different person. That goes pretty much ahead with the uniqueness. You can just show that you are there. So in a conversation, people are aware of you and will remember you even after the conversation. So you are someone, you are a brand that can be remembered. You are bright, you are seen. Of course, you're also brave because you want to stand out and you want to show yourself. And last, you have to be authentic all the time, of course, because otherwise no one would really believe you as a person and you would kind of lose your image that you're trying to create. But to be a brand and to succeed in these conversations, of course, we have to know and get to know more about ourselves because before we can present us to the world, which is quite obvious because if we don't know ourselves and if we don't know about the character or about the person that we want to be, of course, we cannot transmit the image that we want to share to the world. So we have to learn. And the best thing or one of the possibilities to learn how to be the best possible version of yourself or how to be like an authentic and a person that is there and that is aware of situations, you can just try to remember times when you were really happy and when you felt comfortable in situations. For example, when you were with your family and your friends and you were talking about things that you love. Because basically, this automatically creates you as a brand because you in this situation act like a storyteller and you act like a brand because you are yourself in this moment. And maybe you should just think about situations like this and try to transmit this impression you had in these situations to all conversations that you have. So also to conversations when you might feel a bit uncomfortable and when you are not really sure about the situation. So this is basically one way to create you as a brand. But of course, we haven't really talked about your strengths and weaknesses yet, because strengths and weaknesses are also really important to know when you try to form yourself as a brand. So in this presentation, as you might have recognized, we started a bit with the end, and now we are trying to go to the beginning. So first, you are finding out about your strengths and weaknesses. And if you are aware of everything, then you can create you as a brand. I just started at the end to point out how nice or how comfortable it can be if you are aware or if you know how to transmit the impression of being a brand, like a person brand. So let's now focus on strengths and weaknesses. How to define your strengths and weaknesses. Maybe you have like no idea about your strengths and weaknesses, And this is why I want to give you some tips and tricks about how to get to know yourself a bit better. So one method is that you create 2 lists just on a sheet of paper, just to write down something. The first list is a skills you need to succeed in your life. And you can write down everything that comes to your mind when you are thinking about which kind of skills you would need in your life. This can be, for example, that you are an open-minded person, that you are a rhetorically talented person, or just anything that comes to your mind. And of course, everyone needs different skills. So these lists might be very different for each and everyone. The second list you have 2 columns, and one is called strength and the other is called weaknesses, of course. And then you try to think about, what are you good at? What have other people complimented about me? What are my hobbies and why do I like doing them? To find out maybe more about your strength. And the other way around also for your weaknesses. Why am I bad at something, or which kind of things do I hate the most and why is it like that? Or where do I get the most criticism from? So although you at first you might not have any ideas about your strength and your weaknesses, when you think about it and when you just use lists and tables for help, you will automatically find at least something. And of course, don't try to find thousands of different things. Of course, it's enough if there are just some things written, because better having a clear idea about some strengths and weaknesses than having thousands of different ones, because this might not be authentic anymore. Then the second step might be that you ask other people for help, because of course we are all human beings, so we might have a biased opinion about ourselves, since we can only judge in a very subjective way about ourselves. So just go to other people and do the same and ask other people for their opinion about you. So what do they think? What are you good at, or what are you bad at? Just try to find people that you can really trust, and the people that are really close to you, because otherwise they would also have a biased opinion about you because they just don't know you. So you can receive their feedback, and you can start adding their feedback to your list that already existed before. And then you can also see whether the opinions of the other people and your own opinion agree with each other or not. So in the end, it's about refining your lists, and also maybe to find out why there are some differences between the people's opinion or between your own opinion, because maybe you underestimate yourself, or maybe you have just a really, really positive opinion about yourself, which might not be completely true all the time. What is really interesting is taking a personality test. This can also be done in addition to the list that you have done before, and the opinions of other people that you have also collected before. But personality tests are really useful to help you getting a clearer impression about yourself. I have just typed 2 free personality tests. Today I tried out the Young Typology test, and it was really interesting. There are many different sentences, and then you have to click a box whether you agree, whether you are like this as stated in the statement, or whether you are complete opposite. And after this, there comes a result. You are then a specific type of person. And then you can find everything. You can find celebrities that have the same type as you. You can read a lot about your future career, chances, and you can find out a lot more about yourself. The second test I haven't tried so far, but it was also recommended to me from a friend. So maybe you can also try this out and see whether it's useful for you or not. But watch out, personality tests are of course a bit like horoscopes. So they are general, that a lot of people feel a high connection to the result, but in total the result will really like be like a horoscope. So you can say, oh my god, that's completely me, but in the end thousands of other people also say exactly the same. But personality tests are a recommendation concerning like talking about your strengths and weaknesses in a more concrete way, because they give you some language that you can use to express your strengths and weaknesses. And you can also find out whether your own self-impression really coincides with the result of the personality test. And of course, it's always fun to do personality tests. So the one that I took today was only 10 minutes, I think. So it can be done fast and you can still benefit from it, because it's always useful to read something and then make up your own opinion about it. Something that I always mentioned in the last two workshops as well, and today as well, is that it all comes down to trying out new things, to become more creative, to gain leadership skills, what we were talking about in the last lectures, but also to find out more about your strengths and weaknesses. Because when you have difficulties finding out about your strengths and weaknesses because you just don't know about them, because you have a lack of experience, because maybe you haven't tried out so many different things, and this is why you don't really know whether you're good at them or bad at them. So you can just try out new things to get to know more about your character. And if you are, for example, a person that doesn't like trying out new things, you already learned something about your character, that you're maybe not that open-minded person, or that you are a shy person. And this can also already be like a strength or a weakness, as you want to interpret it. For creative experience, I have, for example, painting, drawing, singing, dancing, doing some videos, or to cook. In all of these different creative experiences, you can learn a lot, and you can also learn a lot about your strengths and weaknesses. Then we have technical experiences, like learning programming or launching your own website. Financial experiences, how to invest your money. And of course, also sporty experiences like rock climbing or running or doing some yoga if you haven't done this before. So there are many different opportunities and possibilities to try out new things. When you are doing these experiences, you can also always try to ask yourself some questions to know more about your strengths and weaknesses. Of course, it isn't enough to just do the experiences and try them out. You also just have to reflect on them. Questions that might help are, did I enjoy the experience? And what exactly did I enjoy the most? Or what didn't I like? And why didn't I like the experience? Was it easy to do it? Or was it really difficult to do it? And why? Was it a really difficult path of learning it or not? And if yes or no, do you want to continue? And do you have enough motivation to continue, or yes or no? So you can see that there are many different questions that you can ask about finding out more about your strengths and weaknesses. After this, so after the process of trying to define you as a character a bit better, and after you have an impression about how you as a brand can look like, it is the time to apply this knowledge in real life. So like really often at job interviews. Normally you're maybe not asked about your strengths and weaknesses, but in almost every job interview, people like to ask this question. And even if they are not talking about strengths and weaknesses directly, knowing about you as a person helps you answering all kinds of questions. For example, how would a good friend describe you? So do you have a personal mission statement, for example? What do you like most about yourself? So this is basically the same question as what are your strengths, maybe. Maybe, of course, you also like your weaknesses, but at a job interview, you would probably not say this. Or here, what are 3 skills or traits you wish you had? So what are the weaknesses that you want to overcome? How do you keep yourself organized? Are you a morning person? So all these questions you can easily answer when you know more about you as a person and you as your strengths and weaknesses. What you can say about your strength, for example, what are typical strengths? Are, for example, that you are an action-oriented or an entrepreneurial person that always wants to try something out, that is really active. Or you can also say that you are a creative person if you, for example, love to cook, love to dance, love to sing. You are an honest person when you always say the truth and when you never lie. So all of these adjectives that you can see on this page are basically strengths that you can mention in a job interview, or that can also help you to see whether you have some of these strengths. This is also what I wanted to say when we were talking about personality tests, because in these personality tests, they often give you these adjectives and you can then decide whether you are like this or not. I think this is more easy than inventing or coming up with your own adjectives. In a job interview, you always have to explain something. It is not enough if you just say, okay, I'm a creative, I'm an empathetic person, because recruiting people always want to know more about yourself, of course. So here, it is important that you have to stay focused on 1 or 2 key qualities that define you and that also have a direct connection to the job that you are applying for, of course. So you have to show relevant examples. And this was also when I mentioned at the beginning, when we were doing the lists about your strengths and weaknesses, that it is enough to find like 5 strengths or 5 weaknesses. Better knowing about them well than just writing thousands of different strengths and not being able to connect them to anything. So it is important to know about your key strengths and to be able to explain them and the connection to the job. Of course, don't make jokes. So don't try to be funny in an artificial way at a job interview, because it's an official environment and it would not leave a good impression about you. Of course, you shouldn't lie or be too arrogant about your strength, because in the end, when you are hired for the job and you can't show what you promised, this will leave a really bad impression. Of course, you can exaggerate a bit. I think everyone is doing it, but don't lie directly about your abilities. Of course, you have to be sure about being the right candidate for the job. So your strength should fit the job description, of course. So overall, you can just try to turn your strength into the reasons you are a great fit for the job. That would be like the most perfect solution when people ask you about your strength in a job interview. One example I have found is the following one. I will read it out loud. One person was saying, I have extremely strong writing skills. Okay, so here we can see the question was, what are your strengths? And he or she directly mentions the strength, so the strong writing skills. Then next, I have worked as a copywriter for 8 years in several industries and am committed to both creative excellence and performance metrics when it comes to my work. So here the person really explains why he has extremely strong writing skills. He gives a concrete example to his own life and to his experience in the past. I have had to learn how to find the perfect balance between that creativity and analytics, and it's a personal passion of mine to demonstrate what good writing can achieve for the bottom line in advertising or otherwise. So there he wants to, or she wants to create or establish a connection to the future job that he's applying for. So he just says that he just mentions the result of his past experience. So he knows now about the perfect balance between creativity and analytics. And he also mentions that it's his own personal passion to demonstrate what good writing is. So there in this second part, he wants to create a connection to the future job that he is probably applying for. Now we will do the same with the weaknesses. Here you can see some examples for weaknesses. For example, that you are a disorganized person, that you are maybe too self-critical or too sensitive, that you are like a person that always strives for perfectionism. So here it is important that you always mention why this is a weakness, because in some contexts, this can also be interpreted as a strength. So maybe also that you have limited experience in the field that you are applying for, that you are taking too much responsibility. So you can see that there are many exemplary weaknesses that you can choose from. How to explain your weakness? This is also similar to how to explain your strength. So you name the weakness, you directly state what the weakness is, you give an exemplary situation where the weakness has appeared in the past, and you also try to turn the weakness into something positive or something that you're working on, so that the people at the job interview see that you try to deal with your weaknesses and that you give your best to overcome them. And this is a strength in the end. So your weaknesses can also show your strength. A weakness, an example for a weakness is I can be too critical of myself. So here the weakness is named. A pattern I have noticed through my career is that I often feel I could have done more, even if objectively I have done well. Earlier in my career, this led to burnout and negative self-talk. So he explains now what too critical to himself means. One solution I have implemented over the last 3 years is to actively pause and celebrate my achievements. Now he mentions how he has tried to overcome this weakness. Not only has this helped my own self-esteem, but it has also helped me genuinely appreciate and recognize my team and other support systems. So there he mentions what he got out of his weakness. And look, it's a really long text and it is like maybe a 1-minute talk, but he only mentions one weakness. So there you can see that it's better to focus only on a few points than mentioning thousands of different points. So what you should have learned today is that if you know more about yourself, you can really express yourself in the way that you want, and you can succeed with your own brand image in all kind of conversations. So in job interviews or in just normal conversations with your friend and family, if you know more about yourself, about you as a character, and about your strengths and weaknesses, you will succeed in all kinds of different communications because you are actively able to form your own brand image and the way that you want to show yourself. So this is basically an important step on your way to be a successful person. I thank you a lot for your attention. I really hope that you have learned something today, and I wish you a nice rest evening. If you have any questions, you can always contact me at any time. Goodbye.
Thank you so much. Goodbye. It was really great. And I wish you good luck and success and everything and health. Of course, we need health. Thank you.
Oh, yes, I wish you this too. Thank you a lot for listening to all my lectures.
Goodbye. It was nice to meet you.
Bye. Yeah, I
Bye.
think so too. Bye.